What's up, everybody? Welcome to State of the Nation, the Athletics Raiders podcast. Jimmy Durkin and Vic Tafur hanging out in Alameda. We've got a guest, tight end Jared Cook. What's going on, Jared?
Not much. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
I'm good. My first question, does it feel this year like you're kind of a focal part of the offense as opposed to maybe in years past you're kind of like a secondary role? Or what's your thoughts as far as your role this year?
Yeah, I think you can look at it like that. I think Coach Gruden has kind of acknowledged my talents, and he's using that to kind of help the offense out a little bit more this year, moving me around a little bit, putting me in different scenarios, different positions, and actually trusting in me to do the job that he's calling me to do and to be able to execute that job to the best of my ability. So, yeah, I like it a lot.
Did you know that right away? When you came in, you realized that was going to happen? Or not quite?
Nah. I've always been a part of new coach regimes and, new offensive coordinators, and they don't necessarily play it the way that he did. But he noticed my value right away.
When you look at the offense so far this year, it's kind of been, two different stories. I mean, you guys are 6th in the league in yards, but 28th in points. Is that encouraging that you're moving the ball so well, or where do you guys kind of see as the disconnect between moving the ball and then finding a way to start scoring a little bit more?
It's encouraging for us for sure, but you have to look at the finish aspect of that as well. And in the fourth quarter, we're just not finishing like we're capable of. We're leaving a lot of offense out there on the field, and that's where we have to look at ourselves and focus on where we can get better and how we can improve that. Of course, it's a positive. Don't get me wrong, but there's room for improvement that can help us actually win games, because that's what this is about. It's about winning games.
Do you guys pick apart the fourth quarters, or do you kind of focus on the offense as a whole in general, just kind of different ways you can improve? Do you actually look at each fourth quarter and what went wrong each week?
It's more so of over the course of a game. You look at the plays and the drives where you had maybe some self-inflicted wounds like penalties, things that set you back from actually scoring. And I think that's the most important part on where you can improve is finishing off those important drives, because that's actually going to help you in the fourth quarter. Points-wise, is going to help you in the fourth quarter be where you want to be. And we know in this offense, as we put up 24-plus points, with the defense that we have, we know that we can come out on top of many of those games. We just haven't done that this year yet.
You look at that opener, 9 catches, 180 yards, franchise record for a tight end, and that's three franchises now that you've set the tight end record for. You're the only tight end that's ever had 100-yard games for 4 different franchises. How do you look at that stat? Is that something, I mean, obviously I'm sure you would love to be a guy that has been able to stick around and put up big numbers in one franchise, but to be able to, no matter where you've gone, be able to jump in there and make big plays for different teams, is that something that you're proud of?
Absolutely. It's really hard to get recognition in this league.
Yeah.
There's so many talented players, and there's so many talented teams that put up big numbers. So whenever you can get an individual stat like that, to be able to show and prove the type of work that you're actually putting in and the time that you're putting in, is self-assuring for me to know that I'm on the right path of doing the right things and just keep it up.
And last year we talked about your website. How's that going with the?
It's going great. We're one of the fastest growing companies in our field right now. We got an increase in Nordstroms. We got a lot of new sales. We just got done doing a lot of shows this summer in Chicago, New York, Vegas, and LA. So just improving sales and just getting recognition out there for it.
For those that don't know, what kind of stuff do you have on your website? What's it called? And give everyone the 411.
So the website is nifty-genius.com, and we cater to men's clothing of all different sizes. And it's also a men's lifestyle website. So you have anything from men's clothing, which is Nifty Genius, the brand itself, men's shoes, which is third-party goods. You have antique cars, antique watches, apothecary, different things for men, men's furniture, everything. For a men's lifestyle and just to help a man be something that he should be, and that's a Nifty Genius. So we look out for all the bros out there.
All right, with that in mind, your level of expertise, we wanted to have you rank the uniforms of the 4 teams you've played. You've got the special eye for it. What are your favorite uniforms?
Which one pops the most? I heard the phrase "pops." Are we still saying that?
Yeah.
Which one pops the most?
Number one would have to be the Raiders, of course. I've always been black has always been my favorite color. I always love the color black, and then that silver that just goes with it is just amazing. And the color rush uniforms of the Raiders is pretty dope. Number two would probably have to be the Titans. The Titans had pretty cool uniforms when I played there, and the uniforms now look pretty cool as well that they've upgraded this year. Number three would probably have to be probably Green Bay. That gold and that yellow is pretty historic around the league, and it stands out a lot. It's the only color jersey like its kind. And then last will probably have to be the Rams.
They can't decide. They need to go back to. They need to go. I mean, I think they're eventually going to go back to the throwbacks. That's what they need to be in. They just can't. The NFL's so weird with all that, where they don't let you just change your uniforms and make it like a 2-year process. But I think once they eventually get back in those throwbacks, they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're gonna want to send it over to Twitter for a couple of questions Vic solicited. So let's see. What do we got here, Vic?
All right. You on Twitter a lot, Jared? Do you do a lot of Twitter stuff?
I don't really do a lot of Twitter. I do more Instagram, but I do read some of the nice things that people say on Twitter.
It's hard. They need to have like a filter, right? That just like they need to have some filters.
Not much the last 3 weeks, I'm sure.
So cut out some of them keywords that people on there talking like jerks and give me all the nice stuff.
All right, this is pretty nice. This is from Nick 659-40424. What major differences has you seen from Carr and the rest of the offense in the last 2 years he's been with us?
Probably just from this year, probably just his confidence. His confidence in being behind center and level of play. Coach Gruden has really given him the keys to the castle, and he gives him the tools that he needs to get in and out of checks at the line of scrimmage, to get to the right play and to help us be in the right position to be able to score. So probably that's the biggest thing with him, and being able to take control of what's been given to him. And just far as just the O-line has always been good. Those guys have always been good. But I feel like we've gotten better at receiver as well. Martavius, that guy can run like the wind. You got Jordy, savvy vet that can still run. And then you got Amari that everybody knows what Coop can do. So we got a pretty good offensive package.
All right, last question here before we let you get out. This is from RDR1634. Your favorite route that you personally like to run, and do you enjoy being isolated on one side of the field at times due to the matchup and coverage that you draw, and also your favorite memory or play since you joined the Raiders?
That's quite a question.
Yeah.
we can knock about 4 of them out of that one. Favorite route would probably be any route that keeps me on the move, like a basic, an out, a corner. Where I get running is where I can really hurt defenses and run away from defenders. I do not have a preference on side of the field where I'm lined up. Wherever they line me up, I know I can go to work. I'm used to playing all of it. And favorite play as a Raider, maybe the Kansas City game.
That was a big one.
Maybe the Kansas City game last year, that was a touchdown. And the Rams game this year, of course, is always going to be memorable, man. That's 180. That's the most yards I've ever had in a game. Should have been way more than that, but that's probably the most memorable.
Cool. All right, Jared. Hey, we'll really appreciate it, man. Good luck this week.
Man, thank you guys for having me.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, we're back to just Vic and I. Appreciate the time from Jared Cook. I mean, I think he's a guy that this offense can really rely on. I mean, he's shown that he definitely has big game potential, and I think if he can string together a few more games, especially like the opener. I mean, he doesn't have to go for 180 each week, but you look at this offense, and he's a guy that maybe is the most reliable option out there for them. In terms of receivers.
Yeah, Gruden during the training camp really pumped up a lot of guys. But this one guy actually he was right on about. He definitely said, I'm surprised by his speed and his catching ability. He can make some plays, and I think he'll be a big part of the offense. And that's come true. I think you see it every week, and I think there's no reason for it to stop now.
When you look at kind of the rest of the offense, you see Martavis Bryant and a lot of talk about how he can open up things for this offense. His speed can open up things for everybody else. His speed can allow him to make plays. It's been kind of this little running joke that, hey, 1 week it was Jared Cook, 1 week it was Cooper, 1 week it was Jordy Nelson. I don't know, is this week, is this how they're going to dial it up? Is it going to be Martavis Bryant's week?
I guess so. I mean, it's time for the white tiger to roar. I just think you got to throw him some deep balls. I think, I keep hearing how he switches the field and he's so fast. Let me see it. Let me send him deep, chuck one deep, and either he catches the ball or you get a PI call. But I think they got to find ways to use him to exploit the defenses. I just think, I know what Carr said last week with the last play, why he did it, but Martavis Bryant is not the guy you want to go to with his lack of experience in the system. Yep. And the route he ran wasn't a great route. I think it was obviously a questionable pass. Shouldn't have thrown it. But I just think of all the guys you could have thrown to in that situation, he's not the guy I'd want to go to right there. I think there's other ways to use him to get the maximum output.
It's kind of weird. The last 2 weeks, basically in two of the game's biggest moments, Martavis Bryant. It's 3rd and 8, and he's a hot route, obviously. But he was your hot route on 3rd and 8 on a big play, and obviously he comes up short. And then the next week, it's obviously the interception there. I mean, Martavis Bryant being your go-to guy at the biggest moments, I don't know.
And going one further, Martavis Bryant and Keith Smith.
Keith Smith,
the two biggest fourth down plays. I just think that I think Gruden
overthinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting too cute. I think Ole needs to maybe remind him, hey, we got Marshawn Lynch and Joey Nelson, who's one of the best red zone guys in the league the last 5 years, and it was his coming out party on Sunday. So why not go to him? I think he's definitely had the hot hand. So I think that's one pattern I've been curious about is that you see Cook hit the big first half against the Rams, Nelson, and then they try something else. I don't know if they want to to me, if the guy's hot and it's working, keep going there. I mean, I didn't see any signs as to him. Dolphins are stopping Jordy Nelson, so I just think that he got to ride the hot hand even longer than they have so far.
Yeah, well, in terms of another guy, Amari Cooper. I mean, is he a guy that should they be targeting anymore? I mean, I know after week 1 we said, God, they got to target him more. They do in week 2,
right.
And then he has a week 3 where he didn't know that Derek Carr threw that deep ball. Okay, still not a good look.
No, and then that drop also later in the game. I just think that they have enough weapons now where I can see where if Derek would lose, and he'll never say this, but obviously during the game you lose faith in the guy, and the guys, and I can see where you'd be not positive about going to Amari Cooper all the time. I think that the deep ball, Derek tried for the last few years now, hey, take a shot, let a guy make a play, and that was the case he did. He scrambled, he bought time. Cooper was behind the 3 defenders. He took a shot, and it did not pay off at all. It was a horrible mistake because Cooper didn't see the ball and started running. So I just think that was a chance where, okay, I gave him a shot to make a play. It didn't work. Then I threw him on 3rd down later on. He dropped the ball. So I just think that, to me, there's still – I know a lot of people say give him more targets, throw the ball more often. But I just don't know if he can do that. I don't know if he's proven he's that guy.
Yeah, it's maddening, really, because, talent-wise, you think he's a guy that – should be getting a lot of targets, and he just can't develop consistency.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a problem, and I think when he's open, you're not getting him the ball, and when you do give him the ball, he drops it. It just hasn't worked out for either side right now.
All right, well, looking ahead to this matchup, taking on the Cleveland Browns, and you enjoyed bantering on Twitter with the Browns fans on Wednesday night, didn't you?
What do they call them, Brown Nation or the Brown Soldiers? But they were
the Dog Pound.
The Dog Pound.
There you go.
On Twitter, that's called Dog Pound?
I don't know. Well,
I'm sure it's a Twitter hashtag, but they were killing me last night. I don't know. I didn't mean any disrespect, but they won one game in 2 years. I'm not going to crown them and think the Raiders. Some Raider fans are like, oh, I'm afraid of the Browns. Like, why would you be afraid of the Cleveland Browns? I know they.
I think the fear is that if you lose to the Browns,
right? So you fear yourself, and you're fearing the Raiders are going to collapse again. But there's not enough talent. Browns have more talent than they had in the past, but there's not enough where you can say that they're going to come in here and like one Brown fan told me they're going to demolish the Raiders, which. If that happens, man, look out below because this season's going to really implode. But, that game they won was impressive, but the Jets were in control of that game, and they took a nap when at the end of the game. Everyone says they could be 3-0, but they could be 0-3. So these records are so this year especially, the records are so weird to kind of judge teams by because the Raiders obviously are better than 0-3. I think that's safe to say. So I think it's a must-win game. That's pretty obvious. And they should win it. I think there's more talent on the Raiders. I know Baker Mayfield had an amazing, incredible half, and the receivers would turn the judge machines up. He throws the ball so hard and all this great stuff. But I would take Derek Carr over Mayfield today. I think that would be pretty logical. So I think they're a better quarterback, better coach, and if they can get some pass rush, they should be in good shape.
My feeling in the NFL is that your record, that defines you. You can be better than your record, you can be worse than your record, but I think in college, sometimes it can be, a little bit different. But in the NFL, like if staying close in a game means nothing to me. In college, okay, that team has a lot more talent than you. You stayed close, you covered whatever. I'm impressed by that. In the NFL, the talent discrepancy between the best team and the worst team is not that large. So what it comes down to is who can make the plays at the end. So the fact that the Raiders have gone and played, the best team in the NFL maybe in the Rams and were close but then fell apart in the fourth quarter. Then they went on the road in Denver. They had the lead. They lost on a late field goal. They had the lead against the Dolphins. They lost. That's all that matters. They lost.
I agree.
And they might be, we've got our power rankings out. I've got, they're 31 out of 32. There's 3 0-3 teams. I did rank them 30th, essentially the best of the 0-3 teams. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You are winless, and your record is what it is.
It's true. You are what you are. I just think that maybe it shows that when you try to feel the game was out and predict how they're going to what the outcome will be. Like, look, last week the Bills went to Minnesota and beat the crap out of the Vikings. No one saw it coming. But it shows your point about anything can happen. The talent level is such that a break here or two, confidence is gained, get on a run, you can beat anybody. So I just think that it's hard to predict this weekend's game, but I do think the Raiders have to win this game, and they should win this game.
Yeah, I mean, the game, to me at least, from an entertainment standpoint, got ratcheted up a notch with Baker Mayfield starting. I mean, I think we've seen enough of Tyrod Taylor over the years.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what this Raiders defense can do against Baker Mayfield and a Browns offensive line that is kind of matadors out there. I mean, they are allowing 14 sacks. The Raiders certainly are not being able to get after the quarterback. Can they this week?
Yeah, I'm pointing it right at Paul Gunther. I've been talking him up since he got here. I like his resume. I like the system. I like how he deals with players. I like how he runs practices. I've been really impressed by him. If he can't scheme up a defense to beat a rookie quarterback on the road with a suspect offensive line, then I'm going to totally backtrack and withdraw all my Paul Gunther stories and all my tweets and say, you know what, they may be in the same boat they were in with previous guys I've had here. So I just think it's kind of show me a week for Paul Gunther. He's got to show. I mean, he's showing signs already. The defense definitely flashed at times. They've collapsed late, but there were some signs despite having no pass rush. But I got to see it this way. I got to see a game plan from A to Z, all 4 quarters, keeps Mayfield off balance. They should be able to stop the run. The Browns don't have much in the run game. So, Paul Gunther, I'm pointing the finger at you this week. Show me something and get the win.
Another guy to, I guess, maybe point a little bit of a finger at it, Arden Key. A lot of talk that he's making progress. No sacks for him through 3 weeks. Is this a week that, they're not getting a whole lot of pressure from the edges? We've talked about Bruce Irvin, about how he's not really performing up to what they need. But can Arden Key, can he be the guy this week?
He's flashed at times. Last week, a few plays where he almost got there. I think you like his work ethic, and he's got that weird bendable body that can get around guys. So Gruden's optimistic, and I talked to Arden today, and he seems like he's definitely on the right path. His confidence is up every week. He feels like he's getting closer and closer. He mentioned that like the heat last week was no problem. He played in LSU, so the heat's not an issue. But he said in Denver he couldn't breathe. It was the first time he's been in that kind of situation where. That's a legitimate excuse, I think, if you look at his production. I mean, if you can't breathe, it's hard to rush a quarterback. So I think for young guys like that, it's all about confidence. He had a lot coming in, still has it. I think you see him getting that closer and closer every week. So I think Arden Key will have a sack this week. I think Bruce Irvin will, too. I'm going to totally ride the bandwagon and say the defensive line actually gets 2 sacks this week.
The goal, if they get a sack, will be to make sure they don't put their body weight on the quarterback. Mo Hurst got called for that penalty, and after earlier in the game, William Hayes did not. When he pretty much textbook did the same thing, landing on Derek Carr. I know the kind of the story. I don't know if I quite buy the story out of Miami that he tore his ACL. The part of it that I don't buy is they say he tore his ACL avoiding landing on him, and then Derek Carr? Oh, he should have just landed. He did land on you.
I will say this though. I watched it again a couple times because I'm with you when I watch it live. I'm like, he didn't try to avoid landing, but you watch it. He did something with his foot. Like his footwork was definitely. He wasn't just. There was some kind of thought process going on where he's trying to do something to kind of get to the side of him, but his foot, the way he planned it, was not normal. So he definitely was doing something out of the ordinary. Which
I think he was trying to avoid. But he wasn't successful at
right,
it. It should have stayed. I think it should have been.
The poor bastard tore his ACL. So,
yeah, I guess that's enough of a punishment.
Right.
But Mo Hurst talking to him today in the locker room about it, and I think the words kind of from Paul Gunther too, and he reiterated this was was a form tackle. That's what you're supposed to do, head to the side. And I think these guys are pretty baffled at what they have to do to avoid these penalties. I know what Mo Hurst tried to do to avoid the penalty is he helped Ryan Tannehill back up, and he said, well, I thought maybe the ref would say, oh, he's a nice guy, I'm not going to throw the flag, but he still got the flag. And it's a ridiculous penalty. I mean, I get the intention of it, but there are some angles at which you sack a quarterback that it's impossible to not put your body weight. It's one thing if you can tell a guy drives him in,
right.
But if you just, if I'm approaching you straight up and I tackle you, we're going to both fall back and I'm going to land on you.
Right.
That's football.
The NFL met about this weekend, and they said that they'll continue as it's going. They can't change the rule now, but I imagine the NFL told officials, hey, guys, why don't you chill a little bit? Take it down. We can't say it publicly, but take it down a notch.
Yeah.
Clay Matthews every week getting penalized for plays which are pretty questionable, and every week, that poor guy. So I just think they got to do so. It's getting to be the major talking point of the league. It's even worse than last year was is that a catch, not a catch? That was ridiculous. Now we've got that whole stage again with a whole different problem. So I think it's become too big of a deal. I think they got to at least officials got to hey, you get 2 or 3 a game, and that's enough. Let's just not go crazy with it.
Well, the worst part with the Clay Matthews deal is, the week 1 or the week 2, the first one that he got, then the kind of word leaked out. Oh, they're circulating that as an instructional video. That is the penalty, and then. The one last week, they tweeted out the video and said, "Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about." So they keep doubling down on Clay Matthews,
yeah.
and they're going back and looking at him nope, that's exactly what we're looking for. That is a penalty. That's the most frustrating thing, I think.
Yeah, it really is. I just think I feel bad for defensive guys. There's so many rules against them, and so many rules that favor the quarterback these days. That how do you play defense? It's kind of absurd.
All right, ready to take some questions?
Let's do it.
All right, State of the Nation Mail. As always, use the hashtag SOTNMail, and we'll head over to Twitter. And first one up from Henry Smith, a guy that he asked a question about a guy that people love to bag on. Do you think Reggie Nelson could still be here next season?
Next season? Wow. I don't think so. I think Reggie Nelson's Paul Guenther's guy to get the other players up to speed. I think he's more comfortable with him right now in terms of his knowledge of the system, and I think that's why he's still playing. The speed's not there. The downfield playmaking ability is not there. I hate to pick on Reggie because Guenther told me to chill already, but there's that one play in the first jet sweep where somehow Reggie ends up behind the line of scrimmage. He's closing in, and somehow he keeps going, and so when the guy turns the corner, Reggie's nowhere near it, and that's a safety. I understand if you. It's just a ridiculous play. I just think that, and then the last jet sweep he got dusted. So I just think his lack of speed is pretty glaring. I think at some point they have to go to Eric Harris in a full-time role, but it hasn't happened yet because I think Guenther just wants to know that here's a guy on the field, 2 guys. Leon Hall's the other guy. 2 guys that know where everyone should be at all times, can relate to other players in the field, and he's confident there won't be a breakdown as far as the assignments, which I think right now is really important to Guenther.
All right, from Sylvester Valderrama, and this is a topic we wanted to get into. With Gruden leaning more on rebuilding this team, could we see a rare NFL sell-off at the trade deadline?
It's a great question. It's so hard to predict what Gruden's going to do because I don't really know if he has a plan. I think he wants to compete, but he also realizes my roster's not good enough. That's why he traded Khalil Mack. I just think he's at a weird place where he's trying to have patience, but he has no patience. So I just think you're right. I can see at some point, you know what, hey, you want Bruce Irvin? That's fine. You want, I think these veteran guys, it all depends on the record, too. If they lose on Sunday, they're 0-4, and it's a free fall. Then I think the veteran guys we brought in, I can be like, why am I here? I'm not going to be here next year in 2 years. What am I doing here? So I think at that point, it makes sense for those guys as well as the team to trade those guys. So you could have an active trading deadline this year.
And who would be attractive trade targets? Bruce Irvin is one that you think maybe you get him in the right defense, a better defense, maybe. The guy that was just sitting right to our right here, Jared Cook is a guy that I don't think they'd want to trade, but could possibly be the most attractive trade option if he's a guy that can come in and step into a team and be a dynamic tight end.
That'd be a killer because I know he's very excited about finally being a key piece, and for Gruden to trade a guy who's said will be a key piece and actually is a key piece, that'd be a whole nother level to this thing. So,
but he's not signed beyond this year.
I know that. So that would he'd be an attractive target for other teams, I'm sure. And like the guys you mentioned, not Reggie Nelson, but Leon Hall, I think has proven again he doesn't get a lot of respect from the media and from fans, but he's a top-notch guy, man. He's made a lot of plays this year. He made some big plays last week that kind of got lost in the shuffle because they lost that game. But he's been probably their top 3 or 4 best players in the team. I think if you're another team looking to make a playoff run, he'd be a guy who can play every corner spot, every safety spot, can blitz, can play the nickel and the slot. So I just think he's a guy that, if I was a team that was on the brink, I would want Leon Hall.
All right, from Randy Guerrero, is this a make-or-break year for Derek and Amari?
I don't think so. I just think, to me, at this point, the key storyline for the rest of the year is Derek Carr. Like, I'm debating if I'm going to write another Carr story. I've written so many Carr stories. I might do another one tomorrow or today. But you can write Carr every week because that's this whole season comes down to me at this point. Are Gruden and Carr going to be that combination that you need to get to the next level? They're going to meld and be that quarterback coach combination that can get you to the Super Bowl. Are they going to go to the next level? That's everything to me that is about that storyline. So I think there have been growing pains. So I'm not sure if it's a make or break year for Carr. Cooper, I think it's a weird deal where we've talked about, is he a number one elite guy? And if he hasn't proven that this year, then you probably save money for next year. You don't need to address that. You can have him come in on his 5th-year option, and it's not really a question mark next year. And his agent probably wouldn't want to sign or push the issue because he wants to wait till he actually has a big year and get maximum dollars. So I could see him coming here for a 5th prove-it year. So next year would become that prove-it year for both those guys. Yeah. So I'm not sure there's a sense of urgency this year for those two guys.
Well, in the 5th-year option, that's the way it works. It's guaranteed for injury, right? But
right.
You can still, you could. I don't know why if that they would, but you still can cut that guy. But I think at this point you would probably rather take up the option and maybe trade him to some. If you were wanting to move on to him, you pick up the option,
right.
You keep the option picked up and trade him somewhere. But yeah, you would think that both those guys at least get next year to see what else. Because this off season is really when I think Gruden is going to kind of start the rebuilding process. I know people got mad at me the other day for the he is rebuilding.
He is.
Like you can say he's not.
The only question mark is it a total rebuild or is it like a semi rebuild? Is he going to keep a lot of pieces already in place, or is he going to gut the thing next year? Which we don't know. It's impossible to know right now. So I think with Cooper, who knows? But I just think that. The 5th-year option, to me, makes sense. And I think, we'll say this, that Cooper has Khalil Mack's agent. And obviously the holdout worked out so well for Khalil this year and for his agent. But I'm not sure it's really that great an option for Amari because he won't, unless he has a breakthrough year the rest of the way. But if this continues the current pattern, he has a solid year, good year, not a great year, I'm not sure you want the holdout. I think you want to get more leverage because Khalil had all the leverage in the world. He was already a top 3 or 4 guy in the league. So leverage was there. You can get whatever you wanted. Which the Raiders should have seen that. They didn't. But Amari won't have the same leverage.
Yeah. But going back to Gruden, I know we did want to talk about his comments from Monday at the press conference where you were traveling back. I was there filling in, and as soon as that press conference ended, have a text message from you just like, what did he just say?
Yeah, I watched it. I was watching it on my little laptop at the airport. And again, the thing about
I'll read the quote.
Read the quote.
The results will happen. It might not happen this week. It might not happen this month, next month, but we're going to get results here, and we're going to get this Oakland Raider football team back on track. We just have to prove it.
I was surprised. I'm not sure why you threw it out there at this point. There's a lot of things he said where I think if he looks back on it like an hour later, I'm like, why did I say that? There's no reason to say that. So I just think that illustrates that he is not sure about this team's roster and not sure about how good it is and how fast he can turn things around. But to me, if I'm a player, especially a veteran player who signed to come here, and I'm sure that was not told when I signed with the Raiders. No one told me that line. That was not told to me back in the offseason. Like, hey, I might come in. Oh yeah, well, it might take a month. It might take 2 months. I'm not sure when we're going to be good, but it happened at some point. No one told me that when I signed here. So I just think it's an alarming statement, which I think some of the players see that and kind of like, that's not really what I want to hear. So I just think they're in a weird spot right now.
Contrast that from the day before where you were talking to players in that locker room in Miami and, we're one play away. We're just,
right.
That's
Marshawn Lynch, for Christ's sake, talked. Marshawn Lynch talked to the media and said, we're one player, one check down away from being the most explosive offense in the league. And then Jordy Nelson said, I think we're really close, and I think that what's going to help us is that we're 0-3, but we have so many veteran guys that have been through the ups and downs, know what the league is like, know that you're not as bad as you think you are, as good as you think you are, we can fight through this. Those guys are saying we can push it through and cross that barrier. The next day, the coach is like, I don't know, maybe we might. It's possible, but I'm not gonna promise it. I mean, we'll check back in 2 months. We'll see how we're doing.
Yeah. All right, another question. I'm going back to the mailbox. Again, another one from Sylvester Valderrama. The report Sunday about Gruden's guys versus the Scouts guys wasn't surprising, but which side do you think leaked that story, and how many more losses before we sadly see Reggie let go as a scapegoat?
It wasn't surprising. We reported about the 2 draft board things back when it happened during the draft, but there were some details in there which I think surprised Gruden as far as that it obviously came from someone within the organization. So I think, and he had a line, I forgot what it was after the game, but something like he alluded to the drama, like behind the scenes, which is hit. No one really knew what it meant, but to me it was like, you know what, hey, we're kind of rolling his eyes at like these leaks that are now in his building, which didn't come from his side. This story came from somewhere else. It was on the non-Gruden side of the office. So I think it's been clear for a while that there's going to be some kind of divorce at some point. I think Reggie will move on probably the end of the season. I think just the way that Gruden is just and fairly so. I mean, destroyed all of his picks the last few years, ripped him,
Yeah, and they haven't been good. We're not going to sit here and say that these were great draft picks that he's unfairly destroying.
Right, but you don't need to probably address this often as he has.
Yeah.
You probably, if you want to like present a solidified front moving forward, you can do it a different way than like and say, hey man, look at this guy, look what you guys gave me, look what happened with this, groceries in my cupboard stink. So I just think there's probably a different way to go about it if you're looking at a long-term relationship, which I don't think they're going to reach. So I think it'll be a friendly separation at the end of the year, but I will definitely be surprised if Reggie's back next season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question here before we get into our picks and then get out of here. From Half Past Hopeful. That's a great handle.
Yeah.
How do you see the defense being after Daryl Worley comes back from suspension? Will it be a noticeable difference in our secondary? Obviously, Worley, one more game that he will miss, and then he'll be back next week in L.A. against the Chargers. I know. I think they're pretty high on him. I think he could. I don't know if he immediately steps back into that starting lineup, but I think they feel like he can be their best corner, maybe.
Yeah, I think it'll happen sooner than later. I think that before the suspension came down, I think he was, in the coaches' minds, their best cornerback. I think he was. Leon Hall called him a technician, and they like what he does in that aspect. I just think that, and you see Rogers Cromartie playing a little more and more every week, and Gruden's very high on him. So I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of weeks you see Worley and Rogers Cromartie as the starting cornerbacks with the two guys backing them up. I think Conley had flashes. You see why he was drafted where he was. He's also made some really bad plays, and I think the tackling has become an issue. I think you look at some of these, I mean, he's not a good tackler. I think that was never a knock on him out of college, but now I think back, I can't recall any examples of where he was tackled well in his year plus year. So I think he's maybe your third cornerback, and then who am I forgetting? Who's the other guy I'm forgetting? Or Melvin. Melvin's a guy who I think maybe has the most playmaking ability of all the guys, but there's an issue with the technique. He's not picking up the whole. There's a way to do things with their hands here with Gunther system. He's working hard to get there, but he hasn't got there yet. He's not comfortable yet. So I think he might. I think he's probably the most talented guy of all of them. I think talent-wise, I think he came here for one reason, to have a great year, and get a big contract, and go back in the market and get a big contract. So I'm not sure it's going to happen. So I think at this point, and it's all fluid, but I think at this point, Worley and Rogers Cromartie are probably the coach's picks to be their two top cornerbacks going forward.
You get Conley some work in the slot. What do you think?
I would think so, but I think Leon Hall's been great. I don't know.
I mean, if you're rebuilding, you kind of need to see what the young guys can do at some point.
I totally agree with you. I just don't know if that logic is being used at this level. I think I don't know. I mean, maybe we're talking about if you can trade Leon Hall to open up a spot for Gary and Conley, but
that's where we've got.
That's where we've gotten to.
We're
going to trade Leon Hall to make room for our number one pick, but that's down the road. But I just think that that'd be a weird move, just because, again, I mean, like I said, Leon Hall's been like a top 3 or 4 guy on this team, I think, and I think to have him lose reps to Gary and Conley because Gary and Conley couldn't take over one of the cornerback jobs is not really the message you want to send to the rest of the locker room. So they're in a really tough spot. There's a lot of sensitive issues coming up, and that's what happens when teams lose. Things just pop up, and then you don't really have any great answers.
Yep. All right, Vic, it's time to make our picks.
Man, last week we had our second lock in a row, and we
It
looked
was-
good, man.
we looked
We were. I mean, three more carries from Marshawn Lynch, and we're 11 life. We're 2-0 on our locks, but for some reason, Derek Carr didn't want to do that. And
All right, Raiders, what, a 2-point favorite this
I
week?
think it's 2.5 now. I
Okay.
just did my Vic's picks, 2.5. I'm not. I mean, hopefully we're not going to agree because I don't want it to be a lock because I think it's a really questionable game. But I'm going with the Raiders. I'll lay with 2.5. I just think that if you can't beat the Browns at home, you got some real problems. And I know they've had issues so far, but there's been enough positive things that have happened in offense and even defense where I think there's still hope. And so if there's hope, then I must pick the Raiders minus 2.5.
All right, well, I am going to take the opposite. I'm going to go with the Browns.
Probably a good pick.
I mean, hey, sorry, Raider fans. I've picked you to win 2
Right.
out of the first 3 weeks, and you've let me down. And so you kind of hit the point where you got to prove it, right? I need you need them to prove it, and the Browns they've got momentum. You could say. I mean, they're fired up with Baker Mayfield,
Super Bowl champs.
We've gotten through this whole podcast. We have not mentioned the name Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson returning to the place where he now admits he learned from the media, his dealings with the media.
That was nice. I like that one. I took a bow. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what his spot is, but I think Hugh's a good offensive coordinator. I'm not sure he's a good head coach, but he's in a tough spot. He has to win. You come off 2 years where you win one game and lose 31. You're kind of in a must-win now. So that was a huge win for him last week. I think it bought him some time. And a win this week can definitely even get him on solid footing.
Yeah, I think he needs 5-6 wins at least.
I think so. They got a new GM. I think at some point he's going to push Hugh aside, but Baker Mayfield gives everyone kind of a new lease on life. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, if Baker Mayfield comes out and balls Sunday, then I think they're in good shape.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll wrap up this week's episode of State of the Nation. We will be back on Sunday night, chatting from the Coliseum after the Raiders take on the Cleveland Browns. And
must-win game. Who would have thought this was the whole season rides on this game?
That's a little scary, but all right, we'll see how Sunday's game goes, and check out all of our work over The Athletic, and subscribe to the podcast. And thanks a lot.
All right, peace.